uh, before we buying some car, the important thing that the most people are concerned is about the price and the tech, isn't it? So today we would like to talk about the deep detail of the vehicle exciting tax. So may I introduce myself and my friends? My name is Parichaya Lonimit.
My name is Parichaya Pornpaisarntakul.
My name is Pitchayapat Jantarawong.
My name is Pichaya Sarika.
My name is Irin Rujirojworanon.
And my name is Phornvara Tanphibulwong.
Okay, so may I start with what is exciting tax? An exciting tax is a legislated tax on specific goods and services at purchase, such as fuel, tobacco, and alcohol. Exciting tax are the international tax imported within a government infrastructure rather than the international tax imposed across country border. A federal exciting tax is usually collected from the motor fuel sales, the airline ticket, tobacco, and other goods and service. Within this presentation, we would like to focus on only the vehicle exciting tax. Next step, talk about who had responsibility to pay an exciting tax. First one is the producer. Second is the importer for the good. Third one is the entrepreneur. And the last one is the consumer. Next, please.
Okay, so the next we will talk about the background of vehicle excise tax. Cabinet resolution on 3rd May 2011. They agreed to restructure the vehicle excise tax, taking into consideration of using energy efficiency and environmental friendly, and also the vehicle safety, renewable energy use, and CO2 emission efficiency by assigning 3 ministries as follows. First one is Ministry of Finance, second one is Ministry of Energy, and the last one is Ministry of Industry. And the next is the excise tax on vehicle concept. The vehicle is categorized as luxury goods because it is not necessary for living. If people don't have this product, it will not affect Thai life. It also creates tax fairness by imposing tax according to the energy efficiency class. The new excise tax policy is more concerned about carbon emission rates as a tax base because fuel oil has a carbon composition. The efficiency combustion will reflect the reduced carbon content and the rate of saving energy and reducing the number of greenhouse gases.
However, there are varieties of categories for collecting vehicle excise tax, which include the first one is how luxury of the vehicle. The next one is cylinder capacity of the engine, also the product champion. And the fourth one is support policy, renewable energy, and eco-friendly. The next one is canceling off-road passenger vehicle or SUV car, and adding more type of car depending on the fuel. NGV retrofit, eco car also included, and the last one using an E85 power. And next one, we will move to the past and current tax structure limitation. For the past tax structure, we have injustice in administration in collecting taxes, also the complexity, unfairness together with an entrepreneur opinion. Moreover, the efficiency use of renewable energy is not in college, and it also does not reflect an approach to environmental development and energy efficiency. However, for the present one is to promote the production, or we can say as product champion. And the next one is government revenue sources, also to save the energy. And the last one is environmental and pollution standards. So next we will introduce you about our vehicle information that we choose.
The next is vehicle information. So our group choose Mercedes-Benz E400D is a 4MATIC AMG Line Premium 4DR 9G Tonics. The original price before the import is 3,478,619.79 Thai baht. Mercedes E400D contain the element of diesel power with brake power of 330. The engine capacity is 2,925 cc and Mercedes E400D combined CO2 emission 176 gram per kilo.
At the part of Excise Tax gap, we have the main element that you should know and understand the concept. The first is demand and supply curve. Demand and supply curve in the economy is relationship between the quantity of the commodity that producer wish to sell at various price and quantity that consumer wish to buy. And next is consumer surplus and producer surplus. Consumer surplus is amount of price and quantity that consumer can pay and willing to pay. And producer surplus is amount of price and quantity that producer can sell and willing to sell. And when we understand the concept of demand supply curve and consumer surplus and producer surplus, it's time to put all those things together. That we see in the first graph, we have a x-axis and y-axis. X-axis stands for price and y-axis stands for quantity. And we have the demand and supply curve. Supply stands for S1 and demand stands for D1. And we have, and in the center, we have the equilibrium stands for the E1. And when we draw the line from the D1 to P-axis, we have the P1, that the price of Mercedes-Benz that we refer to, refer from the previous teacher exercise. It is around 3,500,000. And when we draw the line from the E1 to the Q axis, we have the Q1 that we assume to 100 car. And then you will see the big triangle, right? The big triangle. The big triangle divide into the two parts. The first part is for the consumer surplus in the blue area, and the second part is for the producer surplus that I told you before. Consumer surplus is amount of price and quantity that consumer can pay and willing to pay, and producer surplus is amount of price that producer can sell and willing to sell. And when we, as we see in the third graph, we have the big triangle in the green area is we have the consumer surplus and producer surplus. It is a social welfare that before the government give tax to us. When the government give tax to producer and consumer, the social welfare will decrease. And this is a gap before the government give tax. And when the government give tax, we have the new demand. The new demand curve will shift left because it impacts consumer behavior and it will decrease their demand. As a result, accelerated consumption rate and cause demand to decrease. That we see in the before government give tax, we have the demand that in the orange line, and when the government keep tax, we have the new demand that the green line. Then we have the new equilibrium too. When we draw the line from E1 to x-axis, we have the new net revenue of producer stand for P2, and when we draw the line from the E2 to Q2, we have the Q2 that's we assume to 80 cars, and the people will question about the amount of tax that government keep to the producer and consumer is the area between the orange line and green line. This is about of tax rate that government keep the producer and consumer, and we have the pink area. Is this a new producer surplus, and that you see is smaller than the first graph. That you see in the first graph, we have the big producer surplus, and when the government keep the tax, we have the smaller than one. And next, we will let you know about the where is a consumer surplus and how many of tax that the government keep to producer and consumer.
And after the government imposed the tax on consumer, which is the area above the P3 until the demand curve, you can see it in the blue areas. And total consumer pay is the P2 plus tax, which causes the consumer to encounter a higher price to pay the additional tax on the consumption. And next is the tax revenue. The tax revenue is the area between the P3 and P2, is the tax rate or the 40% of tax. The government collects tax revenue to produce the public goods and compensate the debt loss. And next, I will talk about the debt loss area. It is a small green triangle in the graph, which is a social cost and no one can benefit from it. And it occurs when the supply and demand are out of equilibrium. It is unavoidable to not have inefficiency, but it is the responsibility of the government to reduce this area as much as possible. And as a result, the tax burden is always shared among the consumer and producer. And consumer experience higher price and producer face decreasing in revenue because the vehicle price is more expensive than before imposing the tax. And it decreased the social welfare area from the both producer and consumer surplus. And both consumer and producer lose their surplus because it transfers from the private sector to the public sector. And when you want to find that who bears tax more than others, you need to compare the area of the tax burden between the producer and consumer. Then you can see who is paying more than comparing the area. And for the conclusion, the left graph is the example of the Ola Good Cat graph, which has 0% of import tax and excise tax. Therefore, this graph may have no change or have a little change in demand and supply. And when you can see these two different graphs, they show that at this moment, the government tries to persuade people to use electric vehicles more than the internal combustion engine vehicles. Thank you.
Thank you.